Welcome to Golf GS Pro tutorial. Today we're going to be going over a lot of the new details with the new GS Pro software. First one being to open the new software. If you are still on the Aboutgolf login home screen here, you just simply click on Games. Then you're going to go down to GS Pro and click Play. This will open the new software. This will most likely already be open, but if it is not, this is how you would open it. There will be a few pop-ups. Very important, do not X out of these pop-ups. Do not click the red X, just let that one go away. Another one will pop up in a few moments. Same thing, simply either click out of it. It should go away on its own, but if it doesn't, if you just click out of the space, that will make it work. If you do X out of either of these pop-ups, it will never find the ball, so you will be unable to hit any shots. It also is a good sign that that goes green. That means the launch monitors have connected, and then we would simply just click out anywhere other than that box. Next, we will get into the practice range. So we have several options here on the home screen. We're going to start off with practice. Now, the most basic practice would just be simply here, clicking on the practice range. One of the first and most important things is knowing when the sim is ready to pick up your shot. For those familiar with the old software, you're used to looking for a red or a green light on the top center of the screen. It's now essentially just moved to the bottom. If you see those 3 green arrows on each side of the golf ball, as long as those arrows are green, that means it is detecting your shot. If your ball is not in that hitting zone, those arrows will simply go white. Do not be alarmed. A lot of times it will go green when you put your ball in there, and then a lot of players get a little nervous when they're waggling the club above the ball. Sometimes it'll flash between green or white. The camera or the launch monitor is located above your head, so sometimes when you're waggling that club, if you can block the visual of the ball for a split second, they'll go white. It will still pick up your shot most likely. Just it's losing the visual there for a split second, but once you pull your club back to start your swing, it's going to regain that visual, and it'll almost always go green while you're in your backswing, so when you do swing through, it will still pick up that shot. All right, so here in the basic practice range, you're going to see just kind of wide open field here. We can make some adjustments to that, so this is very customizable here. You have a slider here that you can drag around, and you can kind of set that exact distance that you would like. Also, if you come over here and you click the little pencil icon to edit, you can type in a custom number, so you can put in 150. Bring that flag right to 150. You can also adjust the size of the green. I can bring that in much closer, so it'll be a little easier to see that there is a green there. So there is a little green there where that flag is. If you grab this slider here, you can enlarge or shrink that green. You also can enlarge or shrink, if we back that back up so we have more of a fairway, we can enlarge or shrink the size of the fairway. So if you want to practice hitting drives and you want to have it at a certain width of a fairway, you can adjust that accordingly there as well. As we get into some more detailed options in the range, you can come here to dynamic holes. This is where we have a lot of new features. So if you go to this first option, this shape or size of the green here, you can change between several different options. After you find a green you would like, you get to choose if you would like it to be surrounded by land. You can make it an island, or you can make it a peninsula. All right, then you also have the option to rotate that green in any direction. So if you want to practice, kind of get those bunkers out of the way, you can turn it here, you can turn it long ways, make it a little more narrow. Also have the option to change the pin location on that green between 4 different positions. And you have the option to, again, adjust the distance of that hole and also the elevation. Now you can't make the green elevated, but you can make the tee box elevated to make it more of a downhill shot. So you can adjust all these different factors here, and then you would just simply hit apply and you can start hitting shots. Another one of the cool features is going to be the playground option. So now here you have just basically a giant field, ton of different greens, bunkers, tee shots to hit, and you can simply just go to this first option, cycle through, and kind of find a shot that you wanted to practice. Or what is one of the very cool features, especially if we can enlarge our overview of the range, so you can see here, you can simply just click on this golf ball icon in the top left-hand side, and if you come to the mini map here in the bottom left, you can click anywhere, and that's where you can place your ball. You can also go on screen if you want to be a little more exacting, but I want to be just off the green right there. You can click with that ball, and you can put your golf ball anywhere. If you want to practice putting, you can bring that ball right on the green. Then you want to go back to hitting shots out of the bunker. Be easier on the map. Just click right on the bunker. You're back in the bunker, and you can practice any shot you would like. You also have the option here to cycle through, keeping the same flag and just changing the ball position. or keeping the same ball position and just changing through different flags. So you have tons of different options, very customizable, easy way to practice. Now with any of these options, you always have the option to do a little quick closest to the pin contest. If you simply come here where it says multiplayer, you can change the number of rounds you want for closest to the pin. You can adjust the number of players you would want. You can set the amount of shots per round. And there's even a little bit of different kind of scoring. You can do best, which would simply take the best shot. If you said, all right, you got 2 shots per round, it would be the best of your 2. If you did sum, it would be the total distance of those 2. Average would be the average distance of those 2. So you can kind of choose there. And then different game modes. So you have round or elimination. Rounds would simply be an individual contest, so you'd hit your 2 shots for the first round, you'd have a winner. Then you play again, you'd have another winner. Elimination, if you had more players, so if you had 10 players, it would eliminate the worst player out of the, well, I guess the max there is 8. So if you had 8 players, everybody would hit their shot. Whoever had the worst score would be eliminated. Now you have 7 players in the next round. You would kind of proceed on. You could have more rounds than if you had 8 players until you get to the best person. And you would simply here hit start, and then you would hit your shots. You're gonna have your little leaderboard, scoreboard here on the left-hand side, so you know where you all stand. And you can play a little close to the pin. Again, you could do this on any of the driving range modes. You can go to the dynamic holes. You can do it on here. You could do it on any of those shots in the playground, so you can kind of pick your own green. You could do it on a little chipping contest if you wanted to do it from right here. Same thing, same setup. Now at any time, if you have to get back to the home screen, which we're going to do to show you another cool practice mode, simply hit this little box in the top right. You have your little game menu pop up. If you simply hit end round, confirm, that'll bring us back to the home screen. Now, one of the cooler practice modes is if we go back into practice, clicking on course practice. Here, you have the library of courses you can choose from. If you have a course that you wanted to practice on that we don't have on here, simply ask somebody and we can help get that course on there for you. Right now, we can simply click here. We got Paynes Valleys up here. You would set, you don't really have to change too many of these options. This we'll get into more when we set up on the course, but you do want to set your tee box up, so pick what tees you would like to start from, pick your pin location. Auto putt you won't need, but then you also want to set your course setup. You want to make sure you have the fairways and the greens and the conditions you would want, the elevation, as well as the step meter for the green if you were going to practice any short game. And then from there, you're going to simply hit play Paynes Valley. So now here, it's going to look just like your regular round. You're going to be teeing off on the first hole. However, if you were to hit a shot, so you're going to see after you hit the shot, it's going to bring you right back to the tee box where you previously hit that shot, and you're going to just keep hitting this shot on repeat. So if you want to practice hitting drivers, you can just sit on this tee, practice hitting drivers to a fairway or a hole versus just hitting them to an open field. If at any time you want to say, okay, I'm enough of those drivers, I want to bring the ball to where I just hit, if you simply hit the 8 key on the keyboard, it will bring you to where you just ended up with that last shot, and you can practice from there. Same thing, you're going to keep hitting until you hit an 8 key, or you can always come back to our little golf ball icon here in the top left and say, okay, I want to go to that green side bunker. We can simply click there, start practicing that shot. If we want to go somewhere else just short of the green, we can practice that shot. And then if you come to the little kind of golf hole flag option here, that is your scorecard. You can jump back and forth from different holes here. So you can go, okay, I want to go to the par 3 5th hole. Jump over here. You can start hitting some tee shots. After you hit a few tee shots, say, okay, I want to go practice just in case I miss the green a little bit to the left. And you can start practicing this chip shot. Practicing numerous different shots. You also, again, have the same option like we saw in the other range to do a quick little closest to the pin contest on here as well. And one of the more unique features here is that you do always have the option to click to aim. So this is the same as when you're playing on the course. If you enlarge this, it makes it a little easier. Now, if we want to kind of take that bunker out of play and aim a little bit left of that flag, you can simply use the mini map to aim here, and you can practice with shots kind of lined up at our new red highlighted box here. Or you can simply click on the course and say, okay, I want to take it at the left edge of the bunker. I want to take it over the center of the bunker. You can aim anywhere you want simply by clicking. Makes it very simple. You don't have to toggle back and forth. However, if you want to be more kind of finite there, you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard and just tap and kind of slide yourself left or right as well. Now that is going to be all the features we have here for our practice mode. There is a ton to mess around with. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out or ask us. Again, same way to back out to get started with your round. Come here, menu, and round, confirm. Now we're going to take a look at how it gets set up on the course. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our players. So if you have some names in there, you can leave them in there and play under Mike and John. You can put your names in there by simply coming here, hit plus, add a player. A lot of people just go in there as player 1, 2, 3, 4. Just kind of add them in this way, and you just have your members in there. Try not to have 2 that both say player 3. So whatever we have here, let's add another one. Let's make this one player 1. Make that so there is a difference. All right. Then you would just hit save and exit. You would go to your local match. You'll select your course. Now when you're here, you have roughly 1,900 courses to pick from. We recommend going to simulatorgolftour.com. We'll have a link to that down in the description below. This has a list of all the courses. There is even a map. Some courses are hidden. If we search here for DPC, you'll see that there's a lot of courses under DPC that you may recognize start normally with the first letter before the PC. So these courses are hidden in there. There's also a golf course that's very famous in Georgia. Normally goes by a different name, but in here is listed under as Georgia Golf Club. So if you look on that map, you can kind of zoom into the location and you can see some of these courses are under different names. If you're looking for a particular course and you can't find it, feel free to reach out. We can help let you know if we do have it available. You also have under the filters here, if we delete our search, you can search by different styles of courses. If you select all courses, you can search for par 3 courses, beginner, fantasy, training places that just are more like skills challenges and short game courses. You can sort by country. You can even come in here and search by state. So if you typed in New Jersey, you would start to see, oh, I forgot to turn off training. If you search by New Jersey, you'll see all the different courses that are available here in New Jersey. If you don't see one that's downloaded, just let us know. We can download a course for you. After you decide on a golf course, you can simply come here and click play. This will bring you to the next screen where we're going to put our players in. So we already added our player names in. So here we're just going to go to the drop down slot. We could add in players 1, 2, 3, and 4. If someone wasn't here and you were putting in names, you can always come down to the bottom, hit create new player. You can add their name in here. So you can add a name in if you'd like. But we're going to just leave it as our player 1, 2, 3, 4 for now. Now, if you were to be playing a team match, if you're doing a scramble, best ball, any other format, this is where you would select your teams. You want to have the same color for the same team. So if player 1 and 2 are together, you'd make them both red. If players 3 and 4 together, you would make them both blue. If you want to do 3 on 1, you can have 3 on blue, 1 on red. But because we're going to do just an individual stroke play for this demonstration, we're going to make everybody a different color. We're good there. Now, where you see match setting tees, if everyone's going to play from the same tee box, you can leave that as match settings tees. However, it is much easier to select your tees when you're at this point right here. So every course does have this unique feature where there is a par 3. So you can play any course, all 18 holes, and just play them all as par 3. So on the par 4s and par 5s, it will simply bring you to about 100 to 200 yards out, and you can play every hole like it is a par 3 if you just want to work on approach shots. So that is a little bonus, unique feature there. But this is where you would select your tee. So if you want to go play at 6,200 yards, you could put this player 1 on the yellow. Player 2 wants to go all the way to the black tees. They want to stretch it out. And then you have a kid with you. They're going to play the junior tees. And then we're going to put player 4 here on the green tees. So everyone could play from a different yardage. And if you do set it here, as long as everyone has their tees selected, when we come to our next step at the match settings, this won't matter, because everyone is already playing from their tees. This only matters if everybody, or if one player was on match setting tees, it's going to go to the tees that you select under match settings. Okay, so if everyone's playing from the same tees and you just want to come here, you could just come here, click blue. If they were all on match setting, everyone would then be on blue. But now this really is irrelevant. You also have your game type here, so you can pick your format. Most people are going to play on stroke play. You also have the option for a scramble, match play, alternate shot, best ball, not to be confused with a scramble. Best ball would be a team match where you're taking the best score for the team, not the best shot for every shot. And then Stableford, which is similar to stroke but with points. And then Shamble, which is similar to a scramble but only for the tee shot. So your team would all hit a tee shot, go to the best one, and then you play your own ball out from there. So a couple unique different formats there you can mess around with. Your gimme for your auto putt, so you have different distances you can select. If you would like not to putt, you can come down here to the bottom. You have a few options to not putt, whether you go with a fixed 1-stroke, 2-stroke, 3-stroke gimme on the green, a random auto putt. You can pick your putt where once you get on the green, you put in the number of putts you would have. And then you can even turn off chipping. So I believe it's within about 30 yards. It'll simulate a chip for you and then also give you the auto putt on the green. So if you really want to zip through a round, you have these options at the bottom. We typically recommend 6-foot gimme. Seems to be pretty much the standard where you are putting, but you don't have to waste a ton of time putting. Always recommend leaving mulligans on, just in case you're moving the ball around in there with your foot of the club and it picks it up. Easiest way to undo that shot would be to have a mulligan, so we'll leave that on. Pins are going to go from easiest to hardest, Thursday to Sunday. So if you want easier pins, we recommend selecting Thursday or Friday. If you want a challenge, you can go all the way down to Sunday and really set those pins up in some tough spots. For your course setup here, we recommend pretty much just leaving this how it is. It should stay pretty much the same as kind of the standard settings. You can mess around if you want more of a challenge, you want to make things easier, you can mess around with some of these settings. One of the things we do always recommend putting on 0 is the elevation. Now, at this course, there's only about 135 feet of elevation, so that's not going to make much of a difference. Some courses, however, will have a lot of elevation, and that will affect how far the ball travels. So you'll have to be doing a lot of calculating and a lot of math to kind of figure out the percentage difference your shots will carry. If you're playing at a course, say in Colorado, that's at 5,000 feet of elevation, the ball will definitely go further. So I think it's just simpler if we leave this on 0. This way you know your stock yardages and you can kind of save some time there. Same thing for wind. You can put the wind on. It does seem to be something a lot of golfers will set in the beginning, pay attention for the first hole or two, and then forget throughout the round. And then all of a sudden they're wondering why their ball went 20 yards to the right, and they didn't realize that they had 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing left to right, and that could affect the shot. So we recommend no wind, but you are obviously welcome to add some wind if you'd like a challenge. Green speed. 7 seems pretty slow. Most people who are familiar with stimp meters on the green, 7 would be a very slow green. However, 7 is the speed of the turf, and that is the speed that you are probably used to from the old software. So our screen is 11 feet away from where you putt. If you have the stimp meter set to 7 and you have an 11-foot putt, you should get the ball just to the screen. So we do recommend 7 for that reason, that it makes it a little easier to judge the distance on the putt. A lot of people struggle with the short game in the beginning on the simulator, knowing how far is 20 feet. So using that, having the distance from the ball to the screen is a useful tool. So we do recommend 7 for that reason. However, if you want to make the greens faster or slower, you can always come in here and you can adjust all the way up to 13 or as slow as 6. Realism, we also recommend putting on player setting. You could do force realistic. Force realistic would add penalties for the rough and the sand, which are even affected more if you were to take a longer club. If you were to hit a 3-wood or a 4-iron out of the rough, you would actually have a bigger penalty. So again, similar to the elevation, it's just a lot more calculations you're going to have to do and a lot more math, which can tend to slow the round down. So we typically recommend just leave it on the player setting. This way there isn't a penalty for the rough. So you can hit any club and you can just play it as if you're in the fairway. It's more of a practice round while you're in the simulator. Now for the scoring and assistance, we typically leave this set to quad bogey. That would be 4 over par, so 7 on a par 3, 8 on a par 4, or 9 on a par 5. If you do not check the auto box here, so if this is unchecked, this quad bogey auto concede is only for if you manually went in and said, I've had enough of this hole, and you selected the options concede hole. You could still play the hole out until you make a 12 if you don't choose to concede. If you check this auto concede box, once you reach 4 over par on the hole, it'll pick up and it'll just say auto concede score of 8 or whatever it was for that hole. The rest of these we just would recommend just leaving them how they are. You have your putting assistance for your grid and your break line and all that. We would leave that all on and leave putting forgiveness on normal. If you want auto aim, you could. This would just kind of line you up to where you should be playing the putt. If you had the perfect speed, you still do have to hit the putt straight. If you push or pull it off of that line, it will not go in. So it could help if you're a beginner and you want to get used to the putting, but typically, and for league play, we leave that off. Now next up, you could play Georgia Golf Club here if you're ready to go and you're ready to hit balls on the range. However, a unique feature on some of the courses, not all, have this head to the range option. So we're going to click that just to show you. But this is a unique feature where you can play at the range or warm up at the range of the course that you're going to play on. So this will bring us to Georgia Golf Club's driving range, and you can warm up as if you were playing around at that course. Some courses even have unique mini games and skills challenges that you can do if you go to the course-specific driving range. All right, so we see now we're on the driving range for Georgia Golf Club. Just like you would on the regular range when you're warming up, you can come over to either the mini map or on the course, and you can pick a target to aim at. If you want to practice hitting about 70-yard shots to this flag, you can. So you can mess around all different shots. You have longer fairways here if you were going to hit some longer clubs. And you even have little targets down the left-hand side there as well if you want to practice different distances. You still have all your stats on the right side. So it's just like you're warming up on the range. There's a little bit less. You don't have as many features where you can't just drop the ball anywhere out here on the range. So you are stuck hitting just from this one tee location. But it does pretty much everything else. And then whenever you are ready, you simply come down here to the bottom and hit tee off. Once you hit that, there's no going back. So there's no now going back to range unless we exit and restart. So wait until you are done. If that is what you're using to warm up, make sure you are ready to go when you hit tee off. Otherwise, we're going to have to back out and reload the course. Now, here we are on the first tee. So going over what we kind of see here in the top left, you have your score for every player and the order that you're up. So player 1 is currently up. Everyone, obviously even par, just starting off. And you can see because players are at different tees, it'll show you the different yardage that they have left. So this is their tee shot, but even if you were to have a ball out there in the fairway, it would show you your distance and your elevation that you have left for your next shot. So this helps speed up the round. You can have your club ready to go before it's your turn, so you don't have to wait till you're up to see how far out you are. You already have that information. You also have over here on the right your stats. So right now no shot has been hit, but once you hit, your stats will stay up until another shot is hit. So you don't have to rush over the screen to see your stats after the shot. They're not going to disappear after a couple seconds. They will stay up until another ball is hit, so you have plenty of time to see that after while the next player is setting up their shot. Now, there's a bunch of different shortcuts, just a couple we'll go over. If you hit the S key, you can enlarge the overview here, which is probably the easiest way to aim. If you hold the mouse down, you can drag around and see exactly how far it is to carry certain obstacles and see on the line that you intend to aim how far you would have to hit the shot. Now, there's a ton of these shortcut keys. We're going to have a separate video. Again, we'll have a link below to these shortcuts that will make the round a little bit smoother, and there's a ton of useful, unique features in there. So definitely recommend checking that out. But just to kind of go through this quickly, we have that one way to aim, and then we also could just simply click anywhere on the hole itself. So if I want to aim at that bunker, I can just click at that bunker, and I am now aimed there. And if you see here, this box outlined in red, that is where you are aimed. That's where you're aligning yourself. This white one over here to the right that's kind of tucked behind the trees, that's where the pin is. So that one will almost always be there unless we were to hide that. But this one here, this is your aim. The other thing you could use for your aim is our wind arrow. So we went over, if you were to add wind, right now we have no wind, so 0 miles an hour. But if you were to have wind, this is where you would pay attention to your wind speed and your wind direction. But this wind arrow is always located in the center of the screen. So if you're unsure where you're aimed right below that wind arrow. That's always a good kind of reference point for your aim. If you look on the map to the right, you can see this thick white line here. That is out of bounds. So anything that would go right of that white line would be out of bounds and force you to re-hit. This hole, there is no water, but if there were to be water, if this was a hazard here, this would be outlined in red. So anything outlined in red would be a hazard, which would make you take a drop. Anything outlined in white would be out of bounds, which would force you to re-hit with a penalty stroke. So it's good now to always check on that map to make sure. Sometimes with other software, if you're hitting it down a different fairway, you think you're taking a shortcut, only to find out you're out of bounds. You will now know. As long as there's no white line, you can play it. So if you want to go down over here, you could play it down these other fairways, driving range, and whatever is over there. Okay, now we just chipped the ball just to go over the last few things here. If you look, it wouldn't show up until a shot was hit. So now you will see we just hit a ball here. These are the stats that will stay up until the next ball is hit. Now you also, if we shrink this down, you can see, so the red player now is on their second shot. So they have 253 left after hitting a 110-yard tee shot there. So you will always see that information there. Now you also have some things here under shot options. So you can take a replay of that shot. If you hit some heroic shot and you want to watch it again, you can come to replay. You can follow either the player or the landing zone, and then you would just hit go. And you can watch that brilliant tee shot there. You can also hit spacebar at any time to speed that up to 2x speed, and then you would just come to replay exit to go back to the current shot that's being hit. You can take a drop, so if you're ever stuck behind something, you have sim drop here. It just won't let you go closer to the hole, and it will add a penalty, but you can click anywhere else other than a spot that's close to the hole. It also obviously has to be inbounds, and you can zoom out on that map or zoom in if you want to go further back or somewhere where you couldn't see on that map or cancel. You also now have the option to take a mulligan. So say if the wrong person hit first, or maybe you were just moving the ball around and it moved, you have mulligan here. You can just come here and click mulligan, and you can undo that tee shot from player one. And you can also concede. So if player two isn't here and we're just going to concede until they get here, you can come and hit concede, and it would give them that score. If you hit confirm, we can do this. So it'll give them the score of 8. That was what we set at quad bogey, so that'd be 4 over par on this par 4. So player 2 is just going to get an 8 on that first hole. Now you also have in this menu here a couple other options. You have a flyover if you want an aerial tour of the hole. You have your shortcuts. Again, we'll go over all these shortcuts in a separate video. There's a lot to go into there. You can view your scorecard from here, so you can see the score for the entire round. You can see holes upcoming, and you also have all your settings. So if you're not sure if you set something up correctly, you do have your round settings here on the bottom, which is useful to make sure everything is correct. You also have your stats here too. So at any point, if you want to see any stats from the shots that you're hitting, it's only going to have player 1 right now, but you'll have your driving stats, your greens, putts, all that different stuff will be down here in your stats. And then you also have this, which obviously you're not going to use this from this far out, we're 200 yards out, but you have putt mode. So if you're ever off the green and you would like to putt, you do have putt mode here. There is also a shortcut. If you hit the letter U, you can toggle that on and off. But if you were off the green and you would like to putt, if you come to the menu, you can select putt mode. This would just let the simulator know you're about to putt. Otherwise, it's going to assume you're chipping when you're not on the green. So just a couple little menu things you have here. And also, if you want to clean up the screen, you do have data tiles here. If you were to unselect that, your data tiles here for the stats go away. But most people do like to leave that up while they're playing the round. If at any time you have any questions about your round, feel free to come ask us at the front desk. We're here to help, so don't hesitate, ask us a question. We hope you enjoy your round at Go Low Indoor Golf.